Hello everyone, my name is Kostya. In this video, we will test Grok 4.5. They say this version is good at coding, especially web coding. Today, we'll test this out in our web coding projects and see if that's really the case. Grok 4.5 has a 500,000 token context window. That's actually pretty small. Almost everything else now starts at 1 million. But on the other hand, it's very budget friendly. It costs only $2 per 1 million input tokens and $6 per 1 million output tokens. Let's take a look right away at what the benchmarks show. The benchmarks show that it's sometimes even a bit better, sometimes a little worse, but overall it's roughly on par with Opus 4.8. These are really, super impressive results compared to all its previous versions. I think something interesting is coming. Let me tell you about today's tests and what we'll be testing. First, we'll create a character in low poly graphics using Three.js. Next, we'll make an aquarium where we'll see how it handles logic and how it renders fish models. So this is our flagship test, you could call it that. And at the end, we'll see how it works with the web and graphics. In other words, whether it can handle design. And for that, we'll create a landing page. All right, let's get started with the tests. We'll be running the test here in Claude Code. Here we have Grok 4.5 connected via API, and accordingly, I type create project prom here. And I need to drop this prompt in here. For this, I open the prompt, drag it over here so it can read it, send it, and as soon as we get the results, that is, as soon as it creates the model, we'll review it together, evaluate it, and draw some conclusions. Grok is still working very quickly for us. So it took 1 minute and 31 seconds to create the project. Let me open it. And this is the kind of mage we got. For some reason, his magic casting doesn't work. So let's evaluate his appearance. He does have some issues with body parts. For example, his arm isn't connected here. So that's definitely a flaw. But otherwise, the mage looks pretty decent. I mean, he even has a hat. I don't really understand what this fragment is that's floating in the air. The staff looks okay. He's even holding it with his hand where he should, but the magic casting doesn't work. That's definitely a downside, but overall the head, nose, and eyes all look fine. He even has a beard, but the costume covers it all up. And overall, it all looks pretty good, relatively good. I mean, there are even some particles floating in the air around the staff is spinning, it's all done quite well. If you refine his hands and these parts with additional prompts, maybe tweak the costume a bit, maybe add a mustache, change the beard a little so it's more noticeable, then this could turn out to be a pretty decent model. But for now, it's about a 4 out of 5, you could say. So let's move on to the next test. Now we're going to have a 3D aquarium. I'm also sending the prompt, sending it off, and as soon as we have the result for our fish, we'll take a look at it. I'm curious to see what it will do and how. Will it be an interesting result or just mediocre? Well, we'll find out in a little while. So, Grok finished in 3 minutes and 35 seconds. That's very, very fast. Let's take a look at the results. That was a bit too fast. Won't the results end up being not so great? No, actually, the results are pretty decent. All right, let's have a look. Why does the aquarium look kind of cloudy, like the glass isn't clear, almost gray? Well, okay, maybe I'm nitpicking now. Okay, let's look at the fish. Well, of course, they're not as detailed as Claude's, but still, they really do look a lot like fish. So their tails work properly, they function, even though they're not super detailed along with the fins. They don't move their whole bodies, but just wiggle their tails and swim around. It's not a super impressive result, but it's a very decent one, especially compared to previous versions of Grok, where it was just a complete disaster. By the way, the aquarium looks a bit better from this side. So, plus we don't have any shadows, or no, we definitely don't have shadows. I don't see any shadows from the fish. Bubbles, we do have bubbles, and they're more or less reasonable. The grass is swaying, there are rocks. Everything seems to be okay. Overall, the fish are behaving more or less appropriately, swimming normally. So all in all, this is a relatively decent result. Not exactly amazing, but I'd give it about a 4 out of 5. So it's not the worst result I've seen, but it's not the best either. Plus, there are some issues with artifacts down here. Something is flickering, but that's minor stuff. If you add shadows and slightly improve the fish, specifically how they move, so they swim in a wavy motion like real fish, then I think the result will be even cooler. But overall, I can already see that Elon Musk, well, let's say a hypothetical Elon Musk, has tweaked his model. So now it shows better results than previous versions. The water is the same as before. That is, it still doesn't move in a fully wavy way, but we'll move on to the next tests. Now we'll make a landing page and see how it works specifically with visuals. That is, with design and some very basic UX. Let's see what it comes up with. I'm sending it a prompt, and as soon as the landing page is ready, we'll discuss it. So, it took Grok 9 minutes and 14 seconds to create this project. Let's see what we've got. So, I'm launching a local server so that we can take a look at the landing page. And this is what we ended up with. So, we have a main screen where it tells us that this is about Vietnam. We have this kind of flashlight that follows us as we move from block to block. Next, we have a horizontal scroll with cities, that is, which cities are worth visiting in Vietnam. By the way, the flashlight doesn't interfere with viewing the content. Here we have information about food. What else can we look at here? Here we have something like an itinerary for visiting attractions. We also have reviews here, which, by the way, can't be scrolled through. And then we just have pictures and at the end, a contact form. So I think this is a below average landing page, to be honest. The only interesting element here is the flashlight, which just serves as a decorative feature. And maybe this horizontal slider, yes, so to speak. Everything else here is super standard, I would say, really below average. Not a super impressive result. Let's quickly go over what we've done today one more time. So we have this kind of wizard, not particularly impressive since there are some bugs with the hands, but otherwise it's okay. And there's no effect when you press space or click. For some reason, it didn't create that functionality. Otherwise, well, it's a pretty decent model, at least compared to everything else I've seen before. Not a super result, but not exactly disappointing either. The fish are about the same level. I've seen more interesting fish, but these ones also look pretty good. So, I mean, they don't look like flying, I don't know, cylinders or flying triangles. So these are definitely fish. You can recognize them as fish, even clownfish. There are bubbles here, there are plants swaying, sand pebbles, and even the water shimmers. So overall, this is also quite a decent result. And now the landing page. Well, the landing page is rather mediocre. I would say it's just so-so. There are a few elements here that would be interesting to really look at. Except for this 3D object, which is purely decorative and doesn't affect the information in any way. So, what can I say about Grok? Grok has certainly improved compared to its previous versions, but I wouldn't say that the benchmarks match what it has shown today. That is, I wouldn't say it's at the level of, say, Opus 4.8 or GPT 5.5, which it's competing with, although its price is actually quite attractive for what it has achieved today. I mean, our aquarium was pretty good too. So it's more focused on logic rather than visuals. If you tweak it with some skills or MCPs, it might deliver much better results in graphics as well. But I'm testing that is a sort of vanilla version, meaning without any skills or anything else. And in this particular test, without skills or anything else, it's not showing any super impressive results. So these are either slightly above average results or something like that, sometimes even below average, for example, in the case of landing pages. In the comments, you can share what results you got if you tested it and what you tested it on. For example, backend performance would be interesting to know about. So it would be interesting to read about backend, about frontend, maybe something more serious like some web applications and so on. So you can share your opinion about Grok 4.5 in the comments and talk about your experience. And with that, I say goodbye to you. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and follow the Telegram channel. See you soon. Bye.